in the past, when I came to develop curriculum, I was thinking largely around how do we make curriculum hopeful rather than playful. That was the kind of stance I was taking. And then the element of making that playful sort of rode on the back of the hopefulness, because it felt to me that if, and as you know, as I believe that education exists to make the world a better place and to equip young people with the self-belief that that's even a possibility, as before you even, identify what the problems you want to solve are. If you want that to be hopeful and not full of doom and gloom and despair, then you have to make it playful, because the playfulness acts as a vehicle for well-being and a vehicle for coping with some of the difficulties and the problems that we face in the world. So I kind of came to play almost through the back door, if you like, when I was thinking about planning hopeful curriculum. And so at the heart of dilemma-led or hopeful, hope-led curriculum is this idea of, inquiry, ethical questions, being a force for good in the world, which is one of the things that drew me to my school, because that's in our guiding statements that young people will be a force for good. And I started reading around play, and I was really drawn to the work, of David Whitehead, and I found that article that I think it was commissioned by Lego, where Whitehead and Lewin and lots of play practitioners had contributed to it. And those 5 principles of play. So the fact that play should be joyful and iterative, collaborative, active, and meaningful. And to me, that really spoke to me, because it sat beautifully alongside what I was trying to create through an inquiry dilemma-led curriculum. So when I'm approaching a unit of work, or when I'm sitting with teachers and we're thinking about this unit of work, in order to really embed those principles of play, we've got to think carefully about what they mean. And I would also add, I think during this process of planning, what I would also add to those 5 principles are effective spaces for play. So the emotional realm, because I think when children deeply care about what they're doing, it becomes more meaningful and more memorable for them. And also, as we've mentioned before, the agentive area of learning. So where students and children are agents of change and they feel they've got some control over the direction of travel. So when I was looking at the idea of joyfulness, I think it's really important for us to distinguish between joy and happiness. So happiness is a fleeting state. It's a state where, it's the only emotion you feel, usually. Whereas joyfulness can sit within other emotions. You can be sad, but also joyful. You can be frustrated, but also joyful, because joy is a state of mind that allows us to persist through difficult emotions. It's the level of contentment. And when you get joy, an iterative play where the play has a deliberate difficulty or level of challenge built into it, children enter this state of flow. They enter this state of flow where no matter how, tricky or difficult the problem they're grappling with is, they've got this kind of joyful sense of self and self-belief that they can work their way through it and that it's worth persisting. So when we're working with teachers, it's really important for them, and particularly for leaders out on learning walks with their clipboards, to recognize that joyful learning is not always about children being entertained and happy. It sometimes looks like they're grappling with something quite difficult. And then working within that are all those other elements about, giving children opportunities to collaborate, giving opportunities for children to be working in multisensory and active ways, indoors and outdoors, and working across multiple modes of learning. So that almost demands that we make learning more interdisciplinary. So, for example, in our school, even beyond the early years, which is just naturally interdisciplinary, the way that we work with it, across our primary school, we have units of discovery in which students pull in their English. They might practice some of their maths knowledge. They're weaving together as they need, as and when they need to, their historical, geographical, scientific, PHSE, other knowledge from across the curriculum. And they're drawing that in response to an inquiry question that they're looking at. So, for example, our year fives have a question: how did human beings move from surviving to thriving? And during that question, they look particularly at the Stone Age, but they have a great deal of freedom to play with that question and to really grapple with it in terms of, some of our children will say, well, actually, I don't think they did. I don't think they moved from surviving to thriving. I think human beings actually are in a bit of a mess at the moment. And when they tread softly on the earth and were nomadic and hunter-gatherers, they caused others and themselves less damage. So you can't get that kind of depth of thinking in the curriculum unless you have the space for children to explore with that deeper thinking. So I think they're the key ingredients. If we go back to like joyful, iterative, collaborative, meaningful, active, agentive, and effective, I think we have something that kind of is a recipe for planning really deep, playful inquiry with children.